I'd rather lose a partner than to love a failure. Basically, he'd tell me what to do with Cassie. I had around 15 run-ins. New info Cassie dropped in court wasn't just disturbing, it was devastating. But just when it felt like the worst was out, a sealed statement from a former servant was handed to the judge, one that supposedly names even bigger figures tied to Diddy's darkest truths. Let's break everything down. Diddy collapses as fresh testimonies from Cassie and Slave come out. Diddy just got the shock of his entire life in court after a new statement from his ex Cassie Ventura and his alleged servant Jonathan Audi hit the courtroom. Jonathan Audi, that name might not mean much to everyone, but back in 2018, Audi made headlines over a wild event at one of Donald Trump's Florida resorts. He allegedly fired shots inside the Trump National Doral Miami Hotel and Resort, draped an American flag across the front desk, and got into a shootout with officers. When Audi was being grilled after the situation, he made some crazy claims, and that seemed way off at the time. He claimed he was a servant for Shah Diddy Combs. Cops probably figured this guy was just making up wild stories, right? Wrong. Do you know Sean Combs? I'm Daddy. Yeah, Diddy, whatever you call him. During that interview after the whole mess, Audi dropped bombs about Diddy that seemed too insane to be legit. He said he was a servant for Diddy and got tangled up with both Combs and Cassie Ventura. Back then, people brushed it off as a guy trying to stir up nonsense. But with everything coming out now, folks are starting to wonder if dude was actually telling the truth. What's really got people shook is that Cassie herself confirmed during testimony that Diddy had actually hired Audi multiple times for these so-called freak-offs. That confirmation gives Audi's claims serious credibility and paints a more disturbing image of what allegedly went down in Diddy's world. According to courtroom sources, during questioning, Cassie was grilled about Diddy's alleged servant, which clearly refers to Audi. The fact that the defense even brought that up shows there's some legit weight behind those claims. And it would always be like Glade, or there was another spray she mentioned because he wanted it to smell a certain way. And then she says they'd grab extra linens. And we've heard this story. Straight up calling her claims lies. They tried to argue her testimony about violence shouldn't be included since this wasn't a domestic case. But prosecutors clapped back, saying the abuse is key to count one. It proves the coercion and threats Diddy allegedly used to trap people. 20 minutes in, Diddy's side started objecting to her entire testimony. Now the reason they're doing that is because they're saying, not even saying, Diddy's lawyer literally said everything Dawn was saying was false, and it made zero sense. One of the craziest parts of her story? She said she saw Diddy put hands on Cassie in 2009, because her food wasn't ready fast enough. The next day, Diddy came to talk to her and another bandmate, allegedly threatening them, saying when people talk about things like this, they disappear. That's not just a warning, that's saying, I'll make you vanish. And it shows the kind of fear people allegedly had around Diddy. If folks were afraid to speak or leave because they thought they'd get hurt, that changes this from toxic to criminal. The prosecution said this testimony matters since it shows Diddy knew what he was doing was wrong. The judge allowed Richard's full testimony, despite the defense's pushback. The fact that Diddy's team tried to shut down Richard's civil lawsuit the exact day she spoke tells you how damaging they think her claims are. They filed papers Friday, listing a bunch of reasons her case shouldn't go further, stuff like statute issues, improper group claims, and more. And for someone like Diddy, who built an empire on reputation, watching it crumble in front of him has to hurt. Speaking of image, one part of this trial that's especially disturbing is how it makes us rethink years of celebrity ties and moments, especially with Jennifer Lopez. People are talking about Diddy's past with J-Lo, who dated him from 1999 to 2001. One huge moment was the infamous 1999 New York club shooting where they both got arrested, but Lopez was quickly cleared. That incident's now under new review by feds, as Diddy faces heavy charges, and word is prosecutors might consider J-Lo a potential witness. They think her input could shed light on Comemez's past behavior. According to sources, Derek Lee, Cardillo Smith, who's suing Combs for $400 million over a 1997 assault, plans to call Lopez to the stand. He thinks she may know something important based on her time with Combs. J-Lo stayed quiet about Combs' legal problems, even when Paps tried getting her to talk. Meanwhile, she's out here celebrating, confetti flying for her new hit album, A New Love, and her fashion line launch. But Puff Daddy still lingers in her mind. In an old 2001 interview clip, J-Lo is asked about watching Diddy's interview and says it was good for people to see the real Diddy, the one she knew. When the host mentions Diddy saying his heart was broken, Lopez described him as a really good guy and wished him well. Another 2001 video shows Diddy talking about her after their split, saying he still loves her and always will. Now here's what really got people buzzing. Lopez allegedly had a breakdown after they broke up. In a resurfaced clip, she said she didn't want to leave bed or talk, saying she had a total meltdown. That shows how tight they really were. While J-Lo hasn't said anything about Diddy's freak-offs or these new allegations, Cassie's been spilling every detail, and she's not holding back. The Diddy trial is one of the wildest celebrity scandals we've ever seen. And as we process all this courtroom madness, let's not forget that at the heart of this are real people who've allegedly endured serious trauma. Cassie, especially, deserves credit for her bravery. She's currently pregnant and close to giving birth, yet still stood up in court to share some of the darkest memories of her life. I hope my testimony gives strength and voice to other victims and helps them speak up and heal from pain, she said. For me, the more I heal, the more I remember. And the more I remember, the more I'll never forget. Sis was with this man for a decade, and her story is straight up turning people's stomachs. I'm talking courtroom reactions like they just smelled something dead. Cassie testified for days, May 13th, 14th, and 15th, 2025. Her statements have been raw and emotional, breaking down their entire decade-long relationship filled with alleged abuse, physical, emotional, and mental. The prosecution's whole angle depends on whether the jury believes her. And let me tell you, she brought proof. This week's been brutal but also empowering and healing for her. One of the most unsettling things she revealed involves the so-called freak-offs. She said Diddy set these up regularly, and she felt stuck due to his fame and power. Imagine being forced into stuff that, in Cassie's own words, made her feel disgusting and ashamed. That's the nightmare she says she lived for years. So this guy was working at the Intercontinental Hotel, a security guy who responded when Cassie called for help from the lobby near the elevators. The hallway. Yep, that hallway. One of the most incriminating things in this entire trial is the March 2016 hotel footage, which shows Combs assaulting Ventura in an LA hotel hallway. The video, shared by CNN in 2024, shows Combs shoving Ventura, kicking her and dragging her like a doll. This isn't rumors or hearsay, it's real footage the whole world has seen. And it's nasty. The jury watched it multiple times, seeing Diddy completely lose it on Cassie. It matches her story exactly, and is a major piece of the prosecution's case. In NYC, the first day of Diddy's federal sex crimes trial kicked off with jury selection and a fiery opening statement. The jury includes 8 men and 4 women between ages 30 and 74 from across New York. These are the people who'll decide if Diddy walks or gets locked up. And that hotel incident. That wasn't the only time Cassie says he got violent. She talked about other moments where he allegedly hurt her, assaulted her, and ran every part of her life with threats and force. But wait, it gets worse. Cassie also claimed Diddy hurt a worker and was into blackmail and even arson. Remember Kid Cudi's car? Cassie testified Diddy allegedly blew up Cudi's car after he showed interest in her. That's not jealousy. That's mafia-level crazy. No cap. The defense, of course, is trying to twist everything. They admit Diddy may have gotten violent, which they kinda have to because of the footage, but argue the private stuff was consensual. They're trying to divide the abuse from the trafficking and enterprise charges. It's a desperate strategy, but when you're drowning in this much evidence, you'll throw anything at the wall and hope something sticks. So like I told y'all earlier, after being in court for opening arguments and early witnesses, I think Diddy might actually walk. His lawyers are sharp. But here's where it gets even messier. And by messy, I mean straight-up nightmare. Jonathan Audy's story has been backed by others like Daniel Phillip, a performer who testified he got thousands to be part of the freak-offs, with Cassie during freakouts at fancy Manhattan hotels starting around 2012. Now, if you're thinking this tea can't possibly get any spicier, hold on to your snapbacks because the prosecution has 9 clips of these freakouts as proof. 9. Diddy's lawyers are saying these videos show mutual adult behavior, but based on what Cassie's saying, there was nothing mutual about what happened. What makes this entire situation even more sketchy is that the prosecution claims Diddy tried to influence folks and sway the public from behind bars, even telling relatives what to post online. As of now, Diddy's been denied bail, with prosecutors pointing to his moves to reach out to witnesses and sway jurors through his family. Right now, Diddy's locked up at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, and no one's sure what's next for the music legend. The fallout and what's ahead. With different testimonies coming in, Diddy's legal crew is trying to fight back against these serious accusations. Their approach seems to be twofold. First, admit the violence but say it doesn't qualify as sex trafficking or racketeering. And second, try to make Cassie look like she's not telling the whole truth. During cross-examination, the defense tried to paint Cassie as unreliable due to her admitted drug usage. They pointed out gaps in her testimony, like a mix-up about a story where Diddy allegedly pulled up on Suge Knight with guns. According to them, in her first chat with prosecutors, Cassie gave a different version than what she said in court. So yesterday in court was Cassie's, first day of cross-examining. That's where Puff's team gets to drill her on her story and different stuff they want the jury to, notice or hear. I'm not sure what the prosecutors are cooking. The defense also brought up text messages Cassie supposedly sent after some of the stuff happened, trying to say they had a more upbeat tone than what she's saying now. They're basically asking, if she was really being abused and pressured, why would she send texts that seemed sweet or thankful? That's of course a classic play in cases dealing with intimate partner abuse. It ignores how complex abusive dynamics are and the real fear victims live with. I mean, it's not unusual for victims to act affectionate or grateful to their abusers, especially if they're scared of what could happen if they don't play along. Now for Cassie, the threats got so intense she had to warn her mum about Diddy's threat to release her tapes on Christmas Day. Cassie's mum told how she got a chilling message from her daughter just 2 days before Christmas 2011 saying, Diddy planned to leak the sex tapes as early as Christmas Day. Diddy definitely had his way of keeping control. Another part of the defense's angle is to make it seem like Cassie was equally involved in the drug use. They grilled her on Diddy's supposed efforts to limit her drug intake, suggesting he was protecting her instead of dominating her. From what we're hearing in court, They brought up times when Diddy allegedly contacted dealers and told them not to sell to Cassie because she was going overboard. This move is shady as it tries to twist Diddy's control into concern. So they're talking about her drug use, and the day before, remember I told you all they were asking about how she'd restock her supply. The defense has also tried separating the domestic abuse claims from the sex trafficking and racketeering charges. They've constantly emphasized that Diddy ain't being tried for domestic abuse. And while they admit the way he treated Cassie was messed up, they argue it doesn't legally hit the level of federal crimes he's facing. This is a risky move, since it pretty much admits to one crime, domestic violence, while arguing the other crimes like trafficking didn't happen. Prosecutor Emily Johnson said the world knew Diddy as this bigger-than-life mogul. But behind closed doors, he was forcing women with violence and drugs to stay in line. One of the craziest parts of this whole trial is watching Diddy's public image crash in real time. For decades, Diddy was seen as a business mastermind and a music king. Now we're seeing a totally different side, one filled with violence, control, and alleged crimes. This contrast is clearest when you look at his public words versus what's being said in court. For example, after the 2016 hotel video came out, Diddy posted an apology video on Instagram, which he later deleted, showing regret. Yet in court, his lawyers are now arguing that while the violence was bad, it doesn't equal the charges he's up against. And is there anything you might want to confess tonight before you go in? I keep everything right here or right here, angelic always. In another clip that's popped back up, Diddy's asked, "What's one lie people think about him?" And he says, "There are no lies." He then adds that folks are going to hear about his parties and probably be arresting him. That comment, probably meant to be funny back then, hits way differently now. One super sketchy part of this case is the alleged taping and surveillance. The prosecution says Diddy recorded the freakouts and maybe used the tapes as leverage to keep victims in check. In this digital era, that kind of exploitation gets even more serious, since the fear of having private videos leaked is a real form of control. Let's zoom out for a second. Combs' friend of 35+ years, right? The idea that you don't really know. Snowy decades stepped in to defend him, saying the Diddy he knows wouldn't hurt women. When asked about the claims that people were forced to take part in freakouts out of fear, Finney said he doesn't buy it. Finney even claimed that Cassie was the one bringing folks in for the freakouts, hinting she was part of it, not forced. So what now? The trial's expected to roll on for several more weeks, with more witnesses likely to speak. The prosecution says they still have more to drop, maybe even some of the freakout recordings. The defense is going to keep trying to poke holes in the prosecution's story and frame Diddy's actions as shady but not criminal. The prosecution focused heavy on domestic abuse. No doubt there was abuse, really bad abuse. In this case, worse than what we saw in that 2016 video. If Diddy gets convicted, he's looking at 15 years to life behind bars. That'd be a wild crash from the top for someone who ruled the music game for decades. But it would also send a major message about justice, that no one, no matter how rich or famous, is untouchable. For the victims, this could be a chance for justice, for validation, and maybe some healing. Cassie's testimony shows just how deep the pain runs for many of these victims. The fact that Diddy allegedly looked like he was going to faint in court. After hearing some of it speaks to how strong the evidence is. It's one thing to deny accusations through PR or lawyers. It's a whole other beast to sit there while victim after victim lays out their story in raw detail, knowing the jury is watching every reaction. But of course, it's all still unfolding. Some folks still think Diddy might beat this. Even if he does somehow dodge the charges, his image and career are probably wrecked for good. The court of public opinion doesn't wait on verdicts. And with this many stories, videos, and receipts, a lot of folks already believe he's guilty. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. Whether Diddy walks free or goes down as a fallen mogul, we'll find out. By the way, if you've got something to say, drop it in the comments. And don't forget to click on the next card on your screen. Diddy, 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 just when you think he can't get any worse, boom. A wild audio clip just leaked of Diddy allegedly going off after a witness he was pressuring didn't fold. "I'm a savage. Whatever I want, I get. Whatever I want, I have to get." With the DA already pressing him for using jail calls to intimidate witnesses, this new audio could spell even more trouble for the music mogul. But what's really happening? And how could this change the case? Let's break it down real quick. The integrity of the proceedings could be affecting the fairness of this trial. This argument has been mentioned in court filings and likely influenced the decisions to deny Combs bail several times. The birthday footage especially has been examined as a move to create a more likable image of Combs to the public and possible jurors by portraying him as a family man getting birthday messages from his children. The clip might potentially soften him in the eyes of those who could eventually serve on the jury, possibly shaping their view of the case. What makes this situation even messier is the silence from Combs or his legal counsel directly addressing these claims. While no solid denial appears in recent updates, the silence might be tied to an ongoing legal game plan due to the case's sensitivity. This lack of detail leaves space for speculation without solid rebuttals from Combs' side. The fallout of these claims goes beyond this trial, raising wider concerns about the overlap of social platforms, fame, and the legal system. In times where digital networks can deeply sway public views, the potential for swaying the justice process through these avenues becomes a major issue. As the claims keep building, it's obvious they're being taken seriously by prosecutors and the larger legal system, with multiple media outlets closely watching each move. But what could these claims really mean for the outcome of the case against Diddy Combs? We're going to break down the possible legal fallout if the allegations hold weight in court and see how the defense is reacting. But first, let's zoom out and think about the wider impact of these accusations and how they could shake the justice system's trust. Legal fallout and wider consequences. The claims of witness interference and attempts to sway the jury pool aren't just morally shady. They've caused real legal setbacks for Combs. Probably the biggest consequence has been his denied bail. Combs has been refused bail several times, with judges directly citing fears of witness meddling as a key reason. In November 2024, he was turned down for bail a third time, with the judge citing a high threat of witness tampering as the reason to keep him locked up. This move has left Combs stuck at the Bing in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn all through the pre-trial phase, a big L for any defendant. The bail denial shows how serious the court is taking these obstruction and tampering claims. But the impact stretches past just bail. If proven accurate, these claims could spark extra charges for obstructing justice, witness tampering, or even contempt. Such charges would pile on to the already heavy accusations Combs is fighting, possibly boosting any sentence he may face if convicted. On November 8, 2024, Judge Aaron Subramanian shot down Combs' attempt to gag all potential witnesses, stressing the accuser's right to express their story. That ruling was another blow to Combs' defense game plan, showing how the court wants to protect the legal process and make sure witnesses feel safe speaking up. The search of Combs' jail cell has also stirred debate during the proceedings. His lawyers opposed the cell search, saying it violated his Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment protections, claiming the materials taken were shielded by attorney-client confidentiality. This pushback highlights the tough constitutional topics wrapped up in this trial, especially around inmate rights. The stuff found during that search, however, has been brought up by prosecutors as backing their claims. They said they uncovered proof that Combs influenced a witness and tried to intimidate others, using access codes from other inmates and a third-party messaging system to reach banned contacts. That kind of proof, if accepted, could seriously beef up the prosecution's argument. Outside the court, the streets are buzzing. Viral Diddy lists flying around online have drawn links to the infamous Epstein list, though with one big twist. The Epstein list was backed by real court files and flight records, while these Diddy lists are mostly based on online speculation. Still, despite the wild talk on places like X, formerly Twitter, Combs is firing back, even launching a $50 million defamation suit against Courtney Burgess and his lawyer Ariel Mitchell, accusing them of faking proof and spreading fake claims involving minors. But what are the real charges Combs is up against? The federal case includes 5 counts: racketeering, trafficking, and crossing state lines for prostitution, with the trial set for May 12, 2025. Prosecutors say Combs ran wild, drug-fueled parties where people were pressured to perform and threats were used to keep them quiet. They allege his illegal empire stretched 2 decades with staff and associates helping with various crimes. The wider picture of these charges is worth noting too. Beyond the criminal complaints, Combs is facing dozens of civil suits accusing him of abuse and control over both men and women, some using blackmail and threats to keep victims quiet. Several claims involve minors, which raises the stakes even higher. These civil battles, though separate from the trial, paint a bigger picture of Combs' alleged pattern and could shift public opinion. Now let's hear from activist Jaguar, right, who hasn't been quiet about this whole situation. "Surviving, it's pure survival. We are surviving Diddy," she says. The stakes couldn't be higher. Combs is staring down a minimum of 15 years if found guilty. As reported in The Hollywood Reporter, that possible sentence reflects just how serious the racketeering and prostitution charges are. The trial, which began on May 5, 2025, has been messy, especially with the jury tampering and social media manipulation claims. Picking jurors has been tough thanks to Combs' fame and the massive media storm. Reports suggest many potential jurors already knew about the case from online coverage, making it hard to find truly neutral people. This situation shows one of the deeper issues in cases like this: the mix of fame, internet buzz, and the law. These days, when stories and rumors move faster than viral songs, giving high-profile suspects a fair shot at trial gets harder. The social media tampering claims in this case point to how online platforms can be used as weapons in the justice game. Another angle is the silence from Combs' legal squad. While they've broadly denied the claims against him, they haven't directly addressed the charges of sneaky calls or digital meddling in public responses. That lack of a solid denial leaves space for interpretation and stirs more drama. 1. Comment from Erica Wolf, one of Combs' lawyers, gives a blanket answer. As Mr. Combs' legal crew has stated, he can't reply to every baseless claim in what's become a reckless media circus. She added, "Mr. Combs absolutely and totally denies as false and defamatory any suggestion he harmed anyone, including minors. He's ready to clear his name in court when claims are filed and served, where the truth will come out based on proof, not gossip." Combs is facing the worst allegations of his life, but his team's replies have been oddly selective. They're loud about rejecting general charges, but quiet about the specific jury and witness tampering stuff. That silence is key, since those claims are keeping him behind bars. It might be a legal tactic, considering how risky any public slip-up could be in a case this serious. And those claims are already having a big impact. He's been denied bail repeatedly, with judges saying tampering fears are a main reason. In November 2024, Judge Aaron Subramanian denied Combs' bail again, stressing that releasing him would be a major risk for witness safety. So now Combs remains locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn during the build-up to trial, a huge block for any defendant trying to prep for court. But again, these allegations go beyond just whether he gets bail. If the CE tampering and obstruction accusations stick, Combs might catch new charges that add even more time to his potential sentence. Accusations like contempt or obstructing justice would make his legal path even tougher and draw more scrutiny. Meanwhile, his legal team is pushing back on the aggressive investigation moves. One big flashpoint was the jail cell search, which they say broke his 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights. They argue that sensitive attorney-client info was taken and is now being used against him. Prosecutors say the search was legal and that they found notes, codes, and witness manipulation strategies that help prove their case. These tampering and jury rigging claims don't just look bad for Combs' defense. They raise bigger questions about how power can be used in court. If someone like Combs, with all his clout, can allegedly use resources to pressure witnesses and bend opinions, what does that say about fair trials in general? This case is a serious reminder of why the system needs strong protections, no matter how rich or famous the accused might be. The reach of these accusations has already rocked the music world. The hip-hop space is now under fire as more people speak up about abuse and manipulation from powerful stars. Combs, once seen as untouchable, is now caught in a perfect storm. With criminal and civil cases piling up, it all started back in November 2023, when Cassandra Ventura, aka Cassie, sued him for years of violence and control. That case was quietly settled the next day, but it opened the floodgates. By March 2024, the feds hit several of Combs' properties, seizing over 100 devices and talking to more than 50 people. The info they collected laid the groundwork for the federal charges dropped in September 2024, including 5 major counts. Even as Combs sticks to his claim of innocence, more lawsuits keep rolling in. In February 2025 alone, 10 new suits were filed under New York's Gender-Based Violence Act, which temporarily lifted the clock on sex abuse claims. As of April 2025, there are a shocking 63 civil lawsuits involving more than 100 people. The flood of claims has put crazy pressure on his defense team, who are juggling criminal charges, lawsuits, and non-stop media heat. Media coverage has been wild. The Hollywood Reporter, ABC, BBC Sounds, all giving full coverage. Even Peacock dropped a full doc called Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, digging into his empire and the mess surrounding him. But most of what's being said online is rumors and unconfirmed chatter. The Diddy list getting passed around is mostly guesses. Unlike the Epstein case, there's no real paperwork backing those lists. In January 2025, Combs hit back with a $50 million defamation lawsuit against Courtney Burgess and attorney Ariel Mitchell, saying they spread fake clips of him abusing minors. Combs insists the claims are total lies and says he'll fight to make sure people pushing those lies are held accountable. But with the trial starting soon, the pressure's on. Opening statements are locked for May 12, 2025, and the case is expected to stretch for 8 weeks. Picking jurors has already been messy, with several tossed out for knowing too much about the case, showing just how tough it is to run a clean trial when the media spotlight is this bright. If Combs gets found guilty of racketeering, he could be looking at life. The trafficking charges have a floor of 15 years, and the prostitution count could add up to 10 more. For someone once crowned king of hip-hop, the risk couldn't be bigger. But it's not just Combs on trial, it's the culture that let all this go unchecked. As more victims and big names get linked to this storm, the entertainment industry is being forced to look at its deep-rooted problems. No matter how this ends, the Combs case is changing how we see fame, power, and payback in music. It's a sharp wake-up call that money and fame won't always keep you safe. And as this trial moves forward, we might finally get the full picture of what really went down and what it meant for those affected. That's a wrap. If you liked this video, check out the others on your screen now. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time.